Great Scott! McFly! McFly! Hello, McFly! That's heavy. Butthead. I hate manure. Now what is all this? Hello all, this is Robert with another Tech Geek 311 movie review. And what I just gave you guys is the movie review I'm going to do today, which is Back to the Future. Alright all, today we're going to do the 1985 flick Back to the Future. Now you're probably wondering, boy, it's 2014, why is he doing a movie review from a 1985 movie? Well, let me show you guys. This movie right here, Back to the Future, okay? This movie came out back in 1985. It was actually directed by Steven Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis. And this movie featured a wide range cast of characters. Such as, for one, you got the main character, Marty McFly, who was played by Michael J. Fox. You've got his friend, which is a scientist, Dr. Emmett Brown, played by Christopher Lloyd. You have Marty's mom, Lorraine McFly, played by Leah Thompson. The father, George McFly, played by Crispin Glover. You've got Dave McFly, who played the brother, which is Mark McClure. You've got Linda McFly, the sister, played by Wendell Jo Sperber. I don't know, sorry if I got that wrong. You've got Marty's girlfriend, Jennifer Parker, played by Claudia Wells. You've got the bully of the whole family, Biff Tannen, played by Thomas F. Wilson. And you've got the teacher of the school, Mr. Strickland, played by James Tolkien. All these actors starred in many other movies, many other flicks and all that. This movie actually, I don't know if it actually put some of them on the board, but it actually made a lot of them more famous, especially Michael J. Fox and all that. So, what this is here, this is Back to the Future, okay? And basically, let me go ahead and show you in here. You've got movie one. This came out back in 1985. Then you have movie number two. This came out back in 1989. And then the last year, movie three, which came out back in 1990. Now, there's a reason why I'm bringing this all up now in 2014. Alright, these movies, even though they were done back in 85, 89, and 90, are still being played on local cable channels right now. So the movies are still actually out there. They have their own website. They have their own iOS games for your iPhones and iPads and all that stuff. So these movies have actually tested time actually and have done well. They've actually still prospered. Universal Studios even has their own ride. As you can see, as they had in here. This gives you basically an entire guide telling you about all three movies. You basically have features they've added. You've got a lot of cast photos and things that they had in the movie. All kinds of stuff. Now, for you guys out there younger than I am, which is probably going to be a lot of you guys, I don't know. You probably don't know much about these movies, and you probably have not watched them on cable, and you really don't know what in the world they are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of give you guys a summary, a little bit of a brief summary about each movie, explaining exactly what the movies are about, why you should watch them, what my reviews are. But the main thing is when I get to movie number two. That's going to be the key. Movie number two has to do with about actually our present, where we are now. So let's get this all started first. Let's start off with Back to the Future 1. This movie basically took place in 1985. So remember, 1985, there was a lot of thoughts and stuff from directors had. What would be the future? Now, Back to the Future 1 doesn't take place in the future though. And this one actually takes place in 1955. Basically what happens is Marty's this kid in school that has the principal, Mr. Strickland, picking on him, calling him a slacker and those things. And that becomes a key word throughout the entire movie trilogy. He basically has a scientist friend, Dr. Brown, who created a time machine, or actually created this flux capacitor back in 1955. So when Marty meets up with the doctor, and the doctor shows him this time machine made out of a Delorean car, he shows him this flux capacitor, and he explains to him and types in the time circuits to 1955, saying that's the date I came up with time travel. And then he tells him that in order to power this time machine, he needs plutonium, which he stole from the Libyans. Of course, the Libyans show up. They come in there shooting. Marty takes off in the DeLorean and ends up in 1955 because that was the first date that he had on there. When he gets to 1955, his parents previously had told him how they had met. How the father gets hit by a car and the mother picks him up and they fell in love and all that. Unfortunately, Marty gets hit by the car. So, Marty ends up now in 1955 having to try to bring both parents together, otherwise he'll disappear and be gone and not even exist. So the whole story blends around there. He meets the Biff Tannen, who was the bully of the family, he meets the Mr. Strickland, seeing that they're basically the same and all that. Ends up at the end finally getting everything sorted back out. Sort of, but he changes the history a little bit. So now his father's a little tougher, Biff is a little more, no more bully, those kind of things. He ends up back in 85. Things turn out pretty well. You think the movie's going to end at that point. And then at that point, you get movie number 2, Back to the Future 2, where the Doc flies back in, because at the end of Back to the Future 1, he left and said, I'm going to go 30 years in the future. Now, you think about it. 1985, 30 years in the future, that's 2015. We're in 2014 now, so that's next year. So he comes back, and he's sort of futuristic in the car now. Now, instead of the car using plutonium, it uses garbage for fuel. So now the car flies. He has his futuristic sunglasses and all that. Takes Marty and ends up taking the girlfriend into the future, into 2015. So that brings it into movie number 2. Now here's where I'm going to actually talk about what makes this more sort of techie and geeky like. We go now into 2015 in movie number 2. And here they are. Flying cars, flying speedways or highways. You've got in there all kinds of futuristic things. You've got the hoverboards, so skateboards, because skateboards were real big back then. Now they can hover, they can fly. You use credit instead of cash. Cash no longer exists back then. There's the emergence of cyborgs. You've got the self-lacing shoes. And you've got these jackets that auto-dry themselves if you get them wet and things. I mean, everything is completely futuristic. Now, back in 1985 and 1989, of course, when you thought 2000, wow, 21st century, that's what you thought. Flying vehicles, all this futuristic stuff. Unfortunately, we're in 2014. We don't have the flying cars. We don't have the flying hoverboards. We do have a lot of advanced stuff. We have the internet, which we didn't have back then. We have the iPhones, we have the iPads, we have the digital movies and all those things. So we're there, but we're not like the movie depicted. The movie depicted a lot more things for the future. Alright, so getting back into the review, movie number 2 takes place in the future. Now Marty has gone back there and the Doc says, we're here for your kids, which of course is played by Michael J. Fox again, acting like a kid and those things. So they use pretty much the similar actors within the movies, so they kept it kind of all together. So now he goes and he meets the Biff of that time, which is a cyborg, and he also meets the old Biff. Sees the Biff from the past, is 85, who's old at this time. So now he's going to be in the future trying to help his family and all that. Unfortunately, he decides to get greedy, wants to buy this magazine he finds in a store, which basically has all the sports scores from 1960 or 55 all the way up until 2000 something. So he's like, hey, maybe I can use a time machine and make a little bit of money. You know, go back to 85 and bet on all these things. So unfortunately, the Doc doesn't want to do that. He says the time machine is not for making profitable gains. So this magazine gets in the trash. The old Biff sees it. He takes this magazine, finds a time when he can steal the DeLorean for the time machine, goes back into 1955 to give it to his younger self. And then he comes back to the 2015. They don't even know he took it. They go back to 85 from the future, and it's a new 85 now. So now we've got, the movie's gone into a whole new set. So now they've gone into this new 85, which is ruled by Biff. Biff is the rich one and all that. So the story has to play out now where they've got to figure out when and where and how he got it. So they're going to go back to 1955, go back in there, figure out where he's got it, take it from him so he can't have it, and then go back to their 1985 from there. So the future only takes place in the beginning part of the movie, but it's very significant because they made a couple of flubs. And I noticed that in a couple of pictures. There's one thing at the time machine saying 2012, but in the end of movie 1, he says 30 years, which is 2015. So it's a little different there, but that's their thoughts on the future. Then basically at the end of Back to the Future 2, Doc is flying in the air, it's a thunderstorm and all that. They want to go back to their past and all that, and the DeLorean gets hit by a lightning bolt. Now, the last date that the Doc had sent in there was in the Old West, because he was saying he wanted to go to the Old West. And that last date, at the end of movie 2, that's where it sends him, into the past. Now, he sends a letter back to 1955, knowing that Marty was still there, which gets delivered to him, telling him that he's in the Old West and everything's fine. So now Marty has to go back, find the Dr. Brown for 1955, go find where the DeLorean was hidden, and now travel to the Old West in that time machine to go find the Doc. So that's where it takes you into movie 3. And movie 3 basically plays out in the Old West. You've got the old ancestor of Tannen, the old ancestor of Strickland, the old ancestor of the McFlys. He finds out the family there. And that movie basically takes place in the Old West, and they figure out a lot of the, what's going to go on and how not to die. And Dr. Brown meets a girl, which he ends up saving, which should have died in a ravine, to name the ravine. And so basically that's how movie 3 plays out. Movie 3 basically was the ending. So when Marty's brought back into 85, which they had to do with the train and a lot of stuff. So it's a good movie. You have to watch it. He basically gets the time machine destroyed, which is what the Doc wanted all along. So then he sees, all right, well, his future's no longer set now. He finds out that his future basically is what he makes it, whatever it's going to be. Then he ends up figuring out, all right, I may never see the Doc again. But then at the very end, he brings his girlfriend, shows her the broken time machine, explains to her what happened, and the Doc finally shows up at the end. But he shows up in a futuristic train. So basically he went back to 2015, upgraded the train, made it futuristic and flying and all that. So even though they had the theory back in 85, 2015, 21st century flying and all that, they kept it in 1990 when they had the last movie. Now, all 3 of these movies are good. I recommend you watch them. I don't want to give out any spoilers for you guys who haven't seen it. For you guys who have seen it, I hope you liked them and enjoyed them. My review is that these movies have lasted the test of time. Even though we're in the 21st century, even though we're in 2014, I know the 2015 date and all that was kind of, off the chart because we don't have any of that now. But I have to say these movies are excellent. Steven Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis did a very good job. I enjoyed them. I still watch them, even though, of course, I lived in that time. That's what I thought the 21st century would be. But I still watch them. And every time they come on TV, every time they come on cable, I try to watch them. So I recommend, if you're interested in these movies, either download them digitally or go on the links below. I'm going to leave some links below if you want to actually get your own trilogy, if you want to get each movie separate, however you want to do it. Just remember, this one here is the trilogy set, okay? If you are interested in that, go to my links below. You can get them on Amazon, and I recommend watch them. Watch them. You'll like them. You'll enjoy them. Also, check out Michael J. Fox. He came back to TV now, and he got a Parkinson's disease, but you can't tell anything of that in the movies. So he must have developed that later on in life, because in the movies he plays a good job, does very good. A lot of 1985 and 89 type of, outfits and mannerisms and things play. But either way, they're good. They're enjoyable. So, my recommendation, guys, thumbs up to all 3 movies. They are good. They are watchable. If you're my age, you'll understand exactly what's going on as far as the time. If you're younger than I am, then of course just bear with it, knowing that they were done before you were born. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed this, hope you guys liked it. If you have any comments, want to leave me any questions about it, just go ahead and do that below. Subscribe if you haven't, and I will come back with you guys with some more movie reviews. Alright, thanks for watching, see you in the future.